What is up? Welcome back to the channel. Today I am super excited because this is our first PS5 exclusive review. I've been trying to get hold of a PS5 for months. I finally got lucky. I've been having the best time with my new son. A massive thank you to PlayStation UK for hooking us up with this code. Today's accessibility review is all about Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Not only is this my first PS5 game review, it's also my first Ratchet & Clank game, so please forgive me if I sound like a noob at any point in this review. Rift Apart is the 16th installment in the franchise, but features a standalone storyline that should appeal to newcomers and veterans alike. It's a third-person shooter and platformer in which you travel across different worlds in multiple dimensions to thwart Dr. Nefarious and his plan to extinguish all life in the universe. So I've been a massive fan of Insomniac for a while now. I adored Sunset Overdrive, one of my favourite games of all time, which was one of the Xbox One launch titles. It was the first game that I ever streamed. I cosplayed as the main character and I built a bunch of the guns in the game. And you can definitely see some of the inspiration in Ratchet & Clank, especially with the weird and wacky weapons. Some of the movement and the grinding felt really Sunset. So as soon as I started up this game and I got into it, I was so excited to play. When you start the game, you're given a bunch of difficulty modes to choose from, and what I love about this is that you're actually given the information on what those difficulty modes affect. I personally tend to get stuck making this decision at the start of a game if I don't have all the information, because I feel like I just have to kind of guess which mode to start out on, so I really appreciate it when games give me all this info. There's also a mode where your character doesn't die, which is not only great for kids as it is an all ages game, but also for the players who are struggling with the action and still want to experience the story, because it is actually quite a challenging game. So this is actually something that was only added with the day one patch, which goes to show how accessibility features are still being tweaked and implemented right up until launch. It's a very, very bright game, full of gorgeous space-age neons and vivid colours, and it looks bloody gorgeous, but I must admit it can be pretty visually overwhelming for some of us. It's a lot on the eyes, and it is really very action heavy, so there can be a lot on screen at all times, which I found quite difficult to deal with. There is absolutely nothing subtle about this game. It is permanently in your face. One thing that really helped me with the visual noise was to make use of the high contrast options. These are settings often used by players with low vision to help make the game clearer and distinguish the key elements from one another. But this can actually be super useful for those of us with cognitive difficulties too. It's a very busy environment, which can be pretty visually overwhelming, so being able to pick out which items you can interact with and distinguish friendlies from enemies was really, really helpful for me, and once I discovered it, I ended up using it for the rest of the game. You can choose from one of 4 presets, and then you can go in and customize even further if you wish. The level of customization is incredible. And this is something that Insomniac has implemented previously. It was also there in Miles Morales, which I'm now very excited to go back and play now I've got a PS5. This is just one case of an accessibility feature that might have been made for players with one disability, but ended up benefiting other groups too. I'd personally never considered high contrast modes to help with sensory overload, but it turned out really useful. The game is really good at showing you what to do as you progress through the game, and there are a lot of different elements to learn. While most of the game you'll be shooting enemies with your weird and wacky guns, there are also racing segments, puzzles, bits where you have to walk on the ceiling, but the game shows you what you need to do as and when you need to do it, which I am very grateful for. There are also some tutorial sections where time slows down to allow you more time to respond, which is really nice, and I liked that a lot. The tutorial itself is integrated into the story, so there isn't really a way to go back and replay any of it, and there's not really anywhere that you can check to remind yourself of things in the menus I've been able to find. But you can find the controller layout in the controls and shortcuts menu for a reminder on those controls, which is always helpful. Subtitle customization is fantastic, as we've come to expect from an Insomniac game, but there are some issues with some of the additional environmental dialogue which can overlap with the story dialogue. There's not really any real way to identify which is which because they both display at the bottom in the same spot, so you often don't know what's important and what's not. In other games, these can be differentiated by placing the additional dialogue in a different place. It might be actually over the NPC's head in the world. There are also solutions like in Biomutant where you can control exactly how much of that additional dialogue is captured. So if it's really distracting and you want to filter that out, you can do that. Navigation-wise, it's really easy to see the quest markers in the world, especially if you're using the max size, which is enormous, but there isn't really any breadcrumb trail or GPS type line that you can follow, so I did find myself getting lost quite a bit in certain maps. The map itself is pretty decent, but you aren't able to set custom waypoints, which I did feel like I needed at times. There are some puzzle elements in the game. There's a really fun segment where you play as Clank and you have a selection of spheres that affect the environment and you have to get these little characters from A to B. There aren't any puzzle assists available, but if you are having a hard time with them, you can skip these sections. I did find these really enjoyable, so I wouldn't necessarily want to skip them if I was getting stuck. I think maybe some kind of puzzle assist, additional hints or something would have been really cool here. There are also some sections where you play as Glitch and you have to kill a bunch of viruses, and you navigate this world by walking on the walls and the ceiling. And let me tell you, my motion sickness immediately went off. As soon as the camera flipped, my stomach churned, and I'm feeling slightly sick talking about it right now. Luckily, you can also skip these sections, so you can get around this. I wish that I didn't have to do that because the sections are really cute, but what can you do? My motion sickness hasn't actually been too bad with this game the rest of the time. It is third person, so that eliminates a lot of the risk for me. But there are a bunch of settings that you can play around with if you do feel queasy. You can turn the screen shake off, you can adjust the motion blur, you can put on a persistent center dot, pretty much everything you could ask for. Overall, I really enjoyed this game. I loved the weapons and the vibrant world. It was a bit visually overwhelming at times, but having the high contrast mode really helped me out a lot. I don't think I would have been able to play this game without it. There are a ton of great accessibility options in this game. So many, in fact, that I totally missed some of them. I only actually realized that you can reduce the game's speed when I had a conversation with my friends Steve Saylor and Courtney Craven about the game, which, by the way, you can check out on Steve's channel if you click the link in the description below. It was really interesting getting other people's perspectives and viewpoints on the game because we all have really different needs, so our experiences were actually quite different, so definitely go and check that out. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if there are any games coming up that you want to see me review, please leave me a comment and let me know what that is. Hit that subscribe button for more game accessibility content, and I will see you next time. Bye!